welcome back to the Stay Salty podcast. I'm your host, Megan Powell, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys today because today is the very first episode of our Twin Talk series.
Woo,
I'm here today with my twin sister, Lauren Powell, and we're just going to be talking about deep conversations that we have sometimes in this series. It's so funny because, before this podcast was even a thought in my brain, Lauren and I would have like really deep conversations in the car sometimes, and we'd be like, this conversation should be on a podcast. Like what we just talked about is podcast worthy, and now we're actually on a podcast, which is crazy. And I'm so thankful to be here today with you.
Yes.
And so today we're going to be talking about the college advice we wish we had going into our freshman year. So if you guys are freshmen, or if you're in college and you just want to hear some extra advice, like this episode is for you. We're just going to be talking about, some of the experiences we've had in our college career so far and talk about what we've learned from them and how we've grown in our faith because of these situations. And we're just so excited to share them with you. We're both going into our junior year at Belmont, and it's crazy how fast it's gone. And so we're not college graduates yet, but we hope the wisdom that we have to share is beneficial to you and can encourage you. So yeah, Lauren, can I just let you introduce yourself first before we dive in?
Yeah. Well, I'm Lauren, as you've gathered. If you don't know me, I'm Megan's twin, which is why we're calling it Twin Talks.
Mm-hmm.
Funny because when I was telling people we were doing Twin Talks, people were like, oh, you're going to talk about being twins. And I was like, oh, well, we could talk about that.
We could in a future episode, yeah.
So stay tuned. Don't go yet. Studying music at Belmont, and more specifically commercial voice, and music business and worship arts on the side as well. So we're both pretty busy.
Yeah.
But we both enjoy our busyness.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. This episode will be different from what you've normally been seeing so far, because instead of it being a formal interview and me getting the answers from my guest and talking with them, I will be having just an authentic conversation with my twin sister, and we'll both be sharing our thoughts. And so I'm excited for you guys to see that, and I hope you'll be encouraged by it.
Can I say one more thing?
Okay.
Myself, you might hate me for this.
Okay.
But in case you're wondering, I'm 50 minutes older than Megan.
Oh. Okay, you just had to put that in there now.
Yes.
in the introduction.
The world has to know. Yes, as part of my introduction. 50, that's 50. When we tell people that, people are like, oh, 15? And I'm like, no, 50, 50. And they're like, oh.
Yeah. Our poor mother. Okay, moving on. We're going to get into the first question. The first subject that I wanted to talk about is preparing for college, because it's kind of the mental and physical transition before actually, going to college. And so I wanted to talk about, like the summer before, and even like our last few months of high school, like graduating and just preparing for college. It can be anything from like moving in, like what are some of the hacks you use to like move in, or what were some helpful things that you used to move in, or just like mental preparation of like leaving and going to a new place. Like what were some ways that we prepared that helped us in that transition process?
Well, our situation was unique because we are twins, so we had to prepare for two, and that was really hard.
Yeah.
Especially because we weren't rooming together, so we had like different roommates, like different things we were doing with our room. And if you know us, you know that we're pretty different, so we had pretty different things that we were doing with our rooms and stuff. And we had a lot of stuff. Our mom wanted to get a U-Haul and U-Haul our stuff to Nashville, but we were like too embarrassed to do that. We were like, we don't want a U-Haul. So
I don't think U-Hauls are even allowed either at Belmont.
Yeah, I don't think they are.
And our mom was wanting to get one anyways. She's like, it's fine, like they're not gonna tell us to go away. And we're like, no, Mom, they're not allowed, we can't bring a U-Haul.
Yeah, we were too embarrassed. We spent like a whole day, it seems like, just stuffing everything in my car, your car, and Mom's car. And I don't know how we fit everything in those 3 cars, but we did.
Yeah.
Somehow.
We did. I don't even know how we did it either. But, I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah.
With God on our side,
Yeah,
you know.
for real. And God and IKEA bags. is all I have to say. IKEA bags really came in clutch. Shout out to Izzy Morris, who gave us our IKEA bags.
I still use those every semester for move in and move out. So I guess that's a hack that we can use. Those giant blue IKEA bags are really helpful for move in because you can fit just about, they're almost like Mary Poppins bags. You can fit anything and everything in those bags at once. And it's still hard for us as twins because, you know, most Belmont students do on-campus living for a long time. And so we've been moving in and out 2 people every year. And it's hard, like even just this past May, moving out of our on-campus apartments, we have to move out for 2 in 2 different apartments, and we have to do it in the same amount of time that everyone else moves 1 person. And it's hard, and we don't have more people to help us out. Like, it's harder for a lot of people that we know to help us because they're either also moving out or they're in Texas. So, you know, we're thankful for the help that we had this year. Shout out to Micah, if you're listening. He helped us move out this year.
He taught us how to actually use command strips.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know how. And so, yes, thank you to Micah.
We are thankful for the help we did have. However, we have the same amount of people to help move out 1 person and the same amount of time that everyone else has to move out 1 person. So it's harder because of that. What would you say is kind of the mental transition that you kind of went through from the end of our senior year to going into freshman year?
I think I was really worried about leaving like all my friends and everyone I knew, but honestly, like the Lord really prepared my heart and like that transition and just like making it really sweet to just like be happy for each other and to make like moving away from each other easier. Just say use your summer wisely, because it's like your last summer home and your last full summer with your family, and you know you'll probably come back and visit your family like for at least 1 more summer, but if this is the last summer you have before everything changes in your life. So just to kind of just be aware of that, be sentimental with your time and with the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I would also say the same. I'll also touch on, you know, homesickness too, because I know that's a thing for some people. It was a thing for me, and it's a thing for everyone or most people at some point, and like your freshman year of college. And it's funny how we were literally the opposite when it came to homesickness. Like, I was really nervous to go to college at first. Like, I knew it was something that I was going to really like, but I was really nervous. And because putting myself out there isn't really something I love doing all the time. And especially when it comes to, like, going up to new people and making new friends. And it can be kind of hard for me sometimes just mentally. And so I was really homesick at first because I hadn't found that community yet. And we'll get into finding community here later. You know, at first I was homesick because, you know, I didn't have that community yet, and I didn't really want to try new clubs just because, I don't know, it takes a lot of energy for me to do that as someone who's more of an introvert, and the first week of college you're just using that energy all the time, like every second of the day, especially if you have a roommate that you don't know. Not that that's bad, it's just very energy consuming, and it can get really tiring, and
especially as introverts.
Yeah, it takes a lot of, you know, energy to find that kind of community. And so because of that, I will say homesickness can be really hard at first. Finding that community really helps. And so I just want to say, don't, like, even though it is like very energy consuming, don't be afraid to still push yourself and do it. You know, I thought I was homesick for home, but I was really homesick for a community, and I didn't realize that until after I had found my community, because when you first go to college, your community is home, like where your home is. And the more time we spent in Nashville, the more that Nashville has felt like home to me, not just because of my environment, but because of the community of people I'm now around. Like, it really has taught me that your people are really your home and not a place, because places are temporary, but the people you have will be forever. And I mean, we still have friends in Tyler that we still catch up with and see, and who we love dearly. You guys know who you are. Shout out to you. As hard as homesickness is, the only way you're going to get over it is if you're going to push yourself. And that's what I learned through that. But, you know, I was saying earlier, it's funny because we were the exact opposite with homesickness. I was homesick at first and got better and better as the year went on. But you were quite the opposite. I remember, like, after our first Thanksgiving, you were like, I don't want to go back.
Yeah, I think I just wasn't homesick at first because really when your parents drop you off at college, it kind of almost feels like they're dropping you off at summer camp.
Yeah, especially at Belmont.
Because they have this really awesome program with like welcome week and TT groups, but it also kind of feels like summer camp a little bit in that way. And if you're a Belmont student or if you know anything about Belmont, it's a lot like going to Camp Rock and Victorious, like all mixed into one thing.
Accurate.
Yeah, so you're like, oh, like my parents are gonna come next week and pick me up, but they're not. And it also, as a freshman, you kind of go into college and everything's so magical, and you're like, I'm in college now, living the movie life, and I meet all my best friends here, and I get to do all these things on my own and like go to parties and like stuff like that. But there's this magic that's attached to it for a while, and then once hard things start happening, it kind of wears off. I know when I went home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, that's when it was harder to come back to Nashville, especially because I was like going through a breakup at the time, and I just like wanted to be home in my own bed and like cry with my mom, like eat ice cream with my sisters and stuff like that. So that was part of why it was really hard. But another reason why it was hard was because I'm really bad at not being vulnerable with people and like actually telling people how I'm feeling. So don't stay in your dorm and like crawl into a ball and not tell anyone that you're sad. Tell people you're sad, because you're not alone in that, and you probably have people who like want to know that, even if it's not like where you are at college. Like tell someone at home, FaceTime them, like just tell someone like what you're feeling, so you have people surrounding you, because college is like a great time, and it's also a time where like mental health can like really spiral because you're like on your own for the first time, and that's great, but also like you're on your own for the first time, and that can feel lonely if you let it. So
it makes me think of, you know, Taylor Swift being like, the good news is you're on your own now, the bad news is you're on your own now.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's so true.
But yeah, like totally relatable. I'm sorry to be that, you know, girl who's like quoting Taylor Swift, but like, yeah.
Girl, I don't judge you. I love Taylor Swift.
I know, but other people will judge me. So
that's okay.
To those people, I'm sorry, but I've found that helpful. Going back to like the community aspects, I'll ask you first, Lauren. Like, so Lauren, going off of like the community aspect that we kind of already touched on, how would you say that you found community in college, and what advice would you have to give for someone who's looking for community in college?
Well, I say that I'm an extroverted introvert. I took a test one time that said I was 51% introvert and 49% extrovert. I think that math is right. Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I was explaining this to someone the other day, and they were like, I think you got the math wrong. And I was like, oh, you're right. So, but I'm not good at math. Anyway, I'm very much both, but a little bit more of an introvert than I'm an extrovert. So it's still kind of hard for me to go up to people and say hi and introduce myself, because it's easy to like get in your head. And sometimes I'm an awkward person, so I just like say awkward things, and I'm not very good at thinking about things before I say them. So sometimes I'm like, that didn't make sense, or that sounded weird, and now this person thinks I'm weird. But it's okay, because everyone does that. I had to push myself a lot to go up to people and say hi and invite people to things. And for a long time, it felt like I'm the only person inviting people to go do things. Like no one else is inviting me to go to the caf to get lunch, or go out and get dinner, or like go and, you know, do whatever. And it felt like that for a long time, and it's easy to kind of get in your head about that. But then after a while, then other people start inviting you to things, and you're like, oh wait, people actually do like me, and people want to hang out with me too. So that was something that I had to struggle with for a while. So don't be afraid to push yourself and put yourself out there, because also everyone else is in the literal exact same boat you are, because everyone is just trying to make friends too. So that kind of takes the pressure off of it, that everyone else is just as scared as you are, and everyone is just trying to make friends. So be that person who you would want to come up to you and be a friend.
Yeah, everyone is looking for the same thing. Essentially, everyone is looking for that kind of community. It's just the adventure of finding you know, those types of people who have, you know, your same interests and core values is key, you know. And sometimes it takes time, and sometimes you meet those people the first week of college, and I had a little bit of both, and I think you did too. Like, you know, there's some people in my first year seminar class in my TT group who we're still good friends with to this day, and then for other friends, you know, I just met this year. And so some of them are immediate. Sometimes it takes time, and if it takes time, I encourage you to, well, I don't encourage you, I'm telling you that, like, if you don't make friends right away, that doesn't mean anything on you. Like, there's nothing wrong on you, because everyone is, you know, trying to find friends at the same time, and, you know, God is going to work that out in his perfect timing. And the friends that I did just meet this year, you know, have been in his perfect timing. And so just know that there's nothing wrong with you if you don't have like 10 friends the first day, because that's not how true friendships form. Like, true friendships take time. I also want to encourage you guys to really find a home church too, and get involved and plugged into a home church, because that's how we've met some of our best friends and most beloved mentors, and can get involved with people of, you know, the same core values, faith-based friends. And, you know, it's awesome to have friends who are different from you. Like, you know, having friends who are different from you have its own benefits too, but also having friends who are of the same faith and have, you know, the same faith-based core values. It's so important, because community is so important when it comes to Christianity, and it helps you grow. And, you know, we've had the opportunity to get plugged into a home church too here in Nashville that we love, and it's made all the difference. I would say, you know, finally getting plugged into the church that we go to now helped immensely with my homesickness after my first semester.
Yeah.
Going to a different church every week was fun, but, you know, it didn't have me find my community right away. And I encourage you guys to try different churches and do that.
Church shopping.
Yeah, we call it church shopping. A lot of colleges also have like campus ministries that I've met so many awesome people from. My media production friend who's sitting right behind this camera, we met through Belmont Delight, and I'm so thankful for her. Shout out to you, Eliza. But yeah, like, just those ministries, and I know a lot of campuses have BCM and RUF, and I would encourage you not to just pick one your first week of school and just stay there like the whole year, unless it works out perfectly for you. That's awesome, do that. But I would also encourage people to explore a little bit, because you never know who you may meet anywhere and at church and stuff. I really wanted to emphasize in this episode how important it is to find your faith-based community through like church or ministry or whatever that may be for you, because it really makes the world of difference, is what I learned my freshman year.
Yeah.
Talk about, Lauren, your experiences with relationships in college. You don't have to like get into detail if you don't want to, but we've also had very different experiences with relationships in college too, and we've learned different things, and we want to talk about that with you guys too.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming you mean romantic relationships.
Yeah, like dating and romantic relationships, yeah.
Yeah, well, everyone wants to, we are created to want to be in relationships with people. So that's a good thing, obviously. To be in relationship with a partner. I came into college in a relationship. It was someone that I had dated in high school, like the last few months of senior year, and we decided to do long distance, and it was really hard, and we broke up in probably the fall, I think, and it like went on for a little while, but that, as I said earlier, that was really hard to go through at the end of my first semester freshman year, because it was my first heartbreak, and that was really hard. Megan saw me blubbering like I've never blubbered before, probably. I just remember coming back home from Christmas break and be like like not even like eating this brownie that my mom had made me, and like trying to eat this brownie. I'm like drooling, like things are coming out of places that like shouldn't be coming out and stuff like that. It was a tough time, guys. I have a lot of friends who also came in to college with long distance relationships, and I would say less than half of us are still in those relationships. I don't know about theirs, I won't speak for them, But I know for me, you know, we hadn't been dating that long, so that was probably part of it, that our relationship wasn't as strong as it could have been going into long distance. So I'm not going to tell anyone not to do that. It didn't work for me. Heartbreak is hard, and it's hard to deal with when you're away from your family. But that's just another reason why to find community. Because also, while I was blubbering to Megan, I was blubbering to one of my really, really good friends, Keely, who we met like the first day of orientation. That's actually a funny story how we met, too.
Well, she has also been my roommate for the last year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a gift.
I remember orientation, we walk in and we're all with our parents, we're with our mom and dad, and she's with her mom. We walk in at the same time. There's like balloons, we're like taking pictures, and our parents like start talking. You know how parents get, they're like so excited, they want to like meet the other parents. And, you know, the three of us are kind of just like standing awkwardly to the side, and our parents are like, oh my gosh, like y'all in the same grade. Keely is has the same major as you. Like y'all should come over here and meet each other. And we're all just like, oh my gosh, like, this is so embarrassing. Our parents are trying to make friends for us.
Ako Taco.
And we're just like, oh, hi. You know how it's just like awkward when your parents force you to be friends with people. But
not in this case.
Yeah, not in this case. We ended up hitting it off. Keely is great, and she's literally been like my day one bestie in college.
We ended up like sticking with her the whole day because we were the only person we like knew because our parents had introduced us. And since we stuck together with like who we were already familiar with, we just like we hit it off fast, and like we just stuck together the whole day, and it was great, and that's how we became friends, and we've just been friends since then. And she became my roommate after our first semester of college. She was my roommate all of this past year too, and it was awesome. Keely, we love you. Shout out to you, Keely.
She also saw me blubbering about my about my breakup, and it's just, you know, good to have friends like that who will be with you in the good times and the like really hard times. And then she ended up going through a breakup too, and you know, I was there for her too, so it was really cool to just like be there for each other and relate in going through heartbreak.
So what would you say you've learned from that heartbreak?
Oh gosh, what have I learned? I would say I've learned, I know I've said this, but not to just keep it in, because I think what made it really hard for me to kind of get over, well, one, time is the one thing that will really heal a breakup. And I know if you're going through a breakup right now, you probably don't want to hear that, because I didn't want to hear that at the time. But it really does. Like, over time, it gets better. And just not getting into your own little bubble and trying to, because I'm the kind of person who kind of pushes it back. I'm like, no, I'm okay. I don't want to burden people with my problems. Like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, oh, what I need to do is distract myself with things. So I would distract myself with school or like activities or just whatever I could to just forget about it, and not address the pain and the hurt that went with that. And that ended up being really bad, because that's what ended up me exploding and blubbering and tears and snot and all the liquids coming out. And it's okay to not be okay. I know that's kind of cheesy, but it's true. I would also say heartbreak is normal. We're young. We don't know how to hold each other's hearts right now. So that's hard too when you're dating as like a young person.
Lauren and I have had very different experiences when it comes to dating and relationships in college. We also have completely our types. We don't have types like the type that you think. Well, I mean,
well, thank the Lord we don't have the same type. Can you imagine us fighting over men?
We're both like,
yuck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am thankful for that. But when I say type, I don't mean like he has to be 6'5" or else I'm not gonna date him. Like, I'm talking like,
we love the short kings too.
Yes, like when I say type, I'm talking about the vibes. Like, the vibes and I that Lauren tend to like be drawn to when it comes to like dating and relationships are like on the opposite ends of the spectrum. Like, you told me just this last week.
I knew you were gonna bring this up. He's about to out me.
I'm not about to out you, but we were just talking about last week. You were like, Megan, I just want someone who looks like he could go to jail or kill someone, but who also like loves Jesus. And the way I was
That's
like,
hard to ask for.
oh, brother Lord. Okay, and then
like Brandon Lake, he looks like he could probably like fight someone, but he actually just loves Jesus and is like a silly little cowboy.
Okay. Well, I will say that is not the vibe I typically go for. Brandon Lake is great. I love his music, but if he were my age and single, he would not be someone that I would probably go for, and that's okay. Like
more for me.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways.
Well, now that you've talked for me, I need to tell you guys Megan's type, which is usually like a clean-cut mama's boy vanilla type person. But recently it's like changed a little bit. Because now it's like the artsy type, which you don't usually go for. I usually go for the artsy type. Maybe it's because we're living in Nashville and there's only artsy people here, but yeah.
True. We're both glad that we've never been into the same guy before, because that would be a problem. But
That's
I mean,
such a blessing from the Lord. I
mean,
truly believe the Lord put us so different and our different tastes in men.
I mean, I'm sure if we ever did like the same guy, we would somehow work it out, but it's comforting now knowing that that's probably never gonna happen. And
fries before guys.
Yeah, for real. As I was saying, my experience has been completely different with that kind of stuff. I have actually never been in a relationship. I actually just went on my first date this year, and
I encouraged her to.
Yeah.
So I take a little bit of responsibility.
I've also, had little crushies on some other guys.
Little crushy wushies.
And yeah, little crushy wushies. And
oh, you're blushing.
Because I'm embarrassed talking about it. Because I'm outing myself.
Give the people what they want.
But I mean, it's real. Like, everyone goes through a point at some point in their life where, you have a little crushie on someone, and that little crushie doesn't like you back, and it's something that everyone goes through at some point, and that's also happened this year too. I mean, yeah, I just want to be real with you guys. Like, that's the extent of my relationship experience so far. I guess since I had never been on like the kind of date where the guy's like, hey, like, I like you a lot, like, I think you're cute, let's get coffee or something. Since I had never been on a date until my 20s, my entire teen years I was overhyping it and thinking that like something was wrong with me and that going on a date would suddenly make me feel worth it. I just thought something was wrong with me. I was like, there has to be a reason why a guy doesn't intentionally want to go on a date with me. And like, I went to dances with a couple of guys, and they were both really nice guys, and they're great. I've never been in a situation where a guy like just wanted to ask me out just for not any special occasion, and just because of that, I've never felt like, again, I was overhyping it. And so I guess just one thing I've learned that, when I finally did go on that date, like, all my friends were asking me afterward, like, how do you feel now? How do you feel? And I was like, honestly, like, not that different, which was kind of surprising. Like, going on a date is not gonna make you feel worth something suddenly, like, you're suddenly not gonna feel worthy just because a guy wants to go on a date with you. And that's something that I've learned recently. Like I knew in my head, like, Megan, you don't need validation from guys, and I knew that, but I think I actually had to experience that. It's like known in my heart. Again, talking about the situation where, you have a little crushie and that little crushie doesn't like you back, like, that's inevitable to happen to everyone at some point, as much as I hate to say it. Like, at least once in their life, everyone is going to go through a time where they like someone who doesn't like them back, or they're going to go through a time where someone likes you and you don't like that person back. And we can get to that in a second. Again, that doesn't mean something's wrong with you. And yeah, I mean, I guess just the thing that I've learned the most is, again, like, finally experiencing that isn't going to make you feel worth something suddenly if you know your worth is in the Lord. Also, God's timing is perfect, and, I don't know when I'm going to get into a relationship, but it's going to come in God's perfect timing, and I don't want to settle, because I know settling never leads to anything good. As hard as waiting can be, sometimes to finally experience that after going on dates, it's been a little bit easier to wait now that I know I won't feel any different because of it. And just knowing that, if God is calling me to dating or marriage, that it's gonna be in God's perfect timing and in God's perfect plan. And I will say going on a date helped me realize that myself, and it's made the waiting easier, but it also hasn't made me feel worthy or any different,
Yeah.
whether the date works out or not. But yeah, I also wanted to talk about like how to politely shoot down a guy. We can't really say anything from a guy's perspective because we're not guys.
In case you were wondering.
Yeah. A lot of girls are going to go through, a situation where a guy is interested in them and, you're not interested back. So, like, what kind of things do you say? And I wanted to pull up something. I also want to give a shout out to the book Single, Dating, Engaged, Married by Ben Stewart.
I still need to read that.
That book has completely changed how I view dating and marriage, like 180 for sure. A way to politely, shoot down a guy is in this book that I just not loved, because you don't love shooting down a guy, but just to do it in a Christ-like way. Like, this book has really helped me a lot. He says, don't just freeze a guy out and never respond to his text. Ghosting is neither godly nor gracious. Ghosting might be the easy way out because you don't have to say anything that you don't want to say or hurt his feelings, but he says, give him the courtesy of a response, even if it feels potentially awkward. If you aren't interested, say something like, you seem like a great guy, but I just can't see this going anywhere, but thank you for the invitation. And, he goes on to say that, like, as disappointing as it can be, sometimes people prefer clarity over ghosting. And, I would say the same, like, coming from a girl, if you're a guy wanting to know the same thing, girls care about clarity a lot. And if I were someone to be, shot down, I would much rather have it be communicated in a mature and clear way rather than just being ghosted. And like, one day we talk and the next day we don't anymore, you know?
Yeah, I mean, telling people the truth is always really hard. Christian dating is hard. I've always said Christian dating is just so hard because you go on a date with a guy who loves Jesus, is like in the church, but maybe there's just, something about him that, you just don't see it progressing any further. And that's so hard because you want to like this guy so badly because, maybe he's like good on paper, but there's just something about him that you don't see it going on any further. Maybe you see him as a friend, something like that. And it's so hard to tell someone that because if I've been in that situation where you think, oh, it's something I did, it's something about me, and you don't want them to think that. So yeah, it's hard.
It is hard, but doing it in the Christ-like way is key. And every person you meet who come across in some romantic situation is just one step closer to meeting your person. What you learn from each person is so important because it helps you with your future relationships and you continue to grow. Even if I've never technically been in a serious relationship, like, that's just something that I've learned, because when that time does come, each little crushy or a guy that likes me comes along, is going to teach me something, and it's going to prepare me for that person that may come someday if that's something that God does have for me.
Yeah, not over Snapchat.
Yeah, no.
That's another layer that makes dating hard in this day and age. We have like the talking stage now. I hate that our generation has come up with a whole new stage of dating that I don't think really needs to be there. And there's no one who likes it. No one likes the talking stage. It's just kind of there. We all just succumb to the talking stage. We're like talking over the phone or Snapchatting each other. I'm not on Snapchat because I tried it once and people would get mad at me for losing their streaks, so I just deleted it. But yeah, I think everyone could agree that we hate it, but it's still there.
And I would also say, like, one thing I've learned is, I think people hate the talking stage because it's never clear.
Yeah,
like,
that's so true.
In the talking stage, people never know where they stand.
Because now we have situationships.
Yeah, like in the talking
like, what is
in
that?
the talking stage, you don't even know what stage you're in. Like, are we dating? Are we not? So my biggest piece of advice from my experiences is just to be clear, because I hate it when I don't know how a guy feels about me, and then I feel stupid if I thought wrong.
But girls be clear too.
Yeah, but girls be clear too if you like him back or don't. Like, don't just expect the guy to like do all the work for you. Like, you need to be clear to the guy and let him know that you're interested back, no matter how scary it may be sometimes. And I would also say what I've learned is don't assume anything just from actions. Like, take it like it is. Like, if he's a friendly guy, he's a friendly guy. If he asks you out, he asks you out. Like, you know, thinking like, oh my gosh, he did this, is he gonna ask me out soon? Like, that is just a downward spiral waiting to happen, and the hurt is gonna hurt more. And I mean, it's gonna hurt more if it ends up not turning out the way you want it to, and you're disappointed when he never even asked you out in the first place. Is something I've learned the past couple of years. As hard as it can be sometimes, especially for me as an overthinker, like, just take everything like it is, but also be clear. If you're interested, like, be friendly and like invite him to group lunches. But and, like, sometimes guys don't take the hint, and that's okay. But like, and that's all the more reason to be clear about how you're feeling. Yeah, I mean, obviously don't be creepy about it, but like, anyways, yeah, just take it like it is. Even if it's unintentional, like, don't twist it into thinking something's gonna happen when it may not, you know, because you just end up hurting yourself in the end.
It's like that movie we were just watching Oklahoma, that musical movie, and with our roommate for the summer, Paige, and there's this, I forget her name, but there's this girl in the movie who's like dating the peddler, and she's talking to her friend Lori, and she says, oh, he told me he wants to ride into the sunset with me forever. That means he wants to marry me.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's why we're Delulu, because of this.
That's exactly why we're Delulu.
Feeding into the Delulu.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, the bottom line for this whole podcast is don't feed into your Delulu. But yeah, and I mean, it's true, but
Delulu, aka delusion.
Yeah.
If you didn't know.
But yeah, there's a good balance to like guarding your heart, but also like, you know, be yourself and don't be afraid to put yourself out there, you know?
Yeah.
And again, if you do get rejected, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means God has someone better in mind for you, and God has someone better in mind for that other person. Not better as in like there's so much better than you, but like better compatible for that, more compatible for that person. And you're gonna find your person too. And it's just something you have to trust. Like, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. But so the next thing I want to talk about is like trying out for things like jobs, internships, clubs, sororities, and, you know, not just rejection from dating, but rejection from like God's direction and like life and careers too. So I want to ask you too, like, what's your experiences with that, and like what have you learned from it, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, well, I'm in a sorority at Belmont. I'm in AST, Alpha Sigma Tau. Shout out Alpha Sigma Tau. To all my sis Taus. Haha.
Yeah, I've never heard you say that before.
Kind of cheesy. Well, I never thought I'd be a sorority girl. I almost went to Baylor. I definitely would have rushed at Baylor. Well, at Belmont, we're not supposed to call it rushing, so sorry, Belmont. Belmont has like a really strict hazing policy, so there's like things we can't say. I hope I can say that on here. But I really like being in a sorority. There's times where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do these requirements. But my sorority has actually been really gracious with me and helping me do that. They let me be on like part-time sorority member, if that makes sense. I can't remember the exact term for it, but it's something you can apply for if you're taking a lot of credit hours, which I was, because if you didn't know, as a music student, I think pretty much anywhere, but especially at Belmont, you just take a lot of schoolwork. I was taking 17 hours last semester.
Plus like 3 0 credit hour classes.
Because at Belmont, they put 0 credit hour classes in your schedule because they want you to take more classes, but they don't want it to say it's 21 hours. So I was basically taking like 21 hours of classes. So I just submitted that to them, and they were like, okay, girl, like, we can help you out. And so I just don't have to go to as many requirements and get as many points and service hours and stuff. So that's been really nice. But I really like the community it's brought me. I have met my big sis, Olivia. Shout out to Olivia if she's listening. I love her so much. We just met at Bar Taco a couple weeks ago. She's awesome. When we went on our anchor date, which is like our big little sis date, it was just the greatest thing ever. I just got a little Kate. Shout out to Kate if she's listening. And she's also amazing, and I can't wait to like spend this next semester with her before she leaves in the spring for her study abroad stuff. But yeah, I've also met Anna Komistek through that, and she has
we
been.
love you, Anna.
Yeah, we love you, Anna.
She also does BCM with us.
Yes, I love her.
Yeah, so part of my, story is, yes, throughout high school, I never really, dated anyone, went on a lot of dates, but I've also really struggled with finding my place with, extracurricular activities and, clubs and stuff, and just really finding where I belong in community. And, you know, to put a long story short, I have had so many no's from so many different places the last few years, in high school and college. And, but in high school, because of those no's, I found worship team at high school. And it led to me becoming a worship arts minor here at Belmont. And I'm so thankful for it. Through coming to college, I have had so many no's. I discovered in a really hard way that sorority life is not for me. And when I was excited at first to join a sorority, just knowing that it's not for me and that I'm not a part of one, it's really hard it was a hard pill for me to swallow at first, because sorority life isn't as big at Belmont as it is at other colleges, but it's big for a lot of colleges. And just knowing that I'm not a part of that, or wasn't going to be a part of that at first, was again a hard pill to swallow. And I applied for so many jobs this past year, got a no from all of them in the fall. There were even a couple where they told me they would hire me, and then last minute being like, oh, we decided to hire someone else, just kidding. And it hurts. Rejection, not just from people but from jobs too, hurts so much. And I'm not gonna lie, going through that, knowing that I've never, up until this year, have been on a date, it hurts. And it's easy to think that there's something wrong with you. Why does no one want me why does no one want to hire me? Why does no one want me a part of their club, or a part of their ensemble, or a part of their sorority? What's wrong with me? It's so easy to think that when you're going through so much rejection from different places at the same time. But just this past semester is when I started getting yeses. This past spring semester, I think I had applied for 8 different jobs in the fall for the spring semester and got no's from all of them, and they were all so different. I went into the spring semester wanting a job but having nothing, and then long story short, I ended up getting a yes, getting an offer from our church to lead middle school girls small groups on Wednesday nights. It was kind of a last minute thing after I started the semester in January, but I ended up loving it, and I've met some middle school girls that I love so much. If you guys are listening, you guys know who you are, and I love you so much. It's led to that. And then this past, semester, I wouldn't even be here recording this right now if I hadn't gotten a yes for this podcasting internship that I have right now. And it's something that I never thought I would get at all, just because of how many no's I've had before this. And, I'm so thankful for it, and I've learned so much, and I'm experiencing things I never thought I would experience, and getting advice, and, having mentors that I never thought I would have. And it's been amazing. And again, I've learned so much, and the biggest takeaway I've had from this is that it's not about how good you are at anything. And it's so tempting to think oh, if I didn't get into this thing in college, how am I supposed to get into anything better? I can't get into anything better because I can't get into this. And
because this is supposed to be the best 4 years of my life.
Yeah. So if I can't get into anything in college, how am I supposed to get into anything better? And what I've learned from that is totally not true at all. It's not about being good enough, and it's not about being good enough for anyone. And it's not true to think oh, if I can't get into this, I can't get into anything better. It's more about who is willing to take a chance on you. And again, it's not about how good you are at all. It's more about who sees that and who wants to help you grow. Those people who give you those no's are just not the right people who are meant to help you do that, especially when it comes to jobs and internships, when you want to grow in your major and your career. The people who aren't willing to give you that chance are not the people who are meant to be in your life anyways. And the people who do give you those yeses are. Honestly, it just gives you all the more, motivation to keep looking for those people who are meant to be in your life and who are meant to take a chance on you, and to be those people who are willing to help you grow and to get you to the place where God wants you to be, to grow his kingdom. It's definitely something, it's probably the most valuable thing I've learned in college so far. Even if it's something you really wanted and didn't get, you know, I hate to be that person that says this really cheesy line, but, you know, rejection is God's redirection is so true. That phrase gets really complicated as I was just explaining it, but, like, it is. My bottom line is, like, don't ever think you're not good enough for anything that you go for, because, you know, something else that someone just recently told me is it's more about who you are than what you know. And who you are translates so much more into what you do. And so focus more on, like, who you are and, like, who you click with and, like, how can you use your gifts to God's kingdom instead of just trying to be good enough for anything that you can lay your hands on. Because as someone who has also received a lot of no's from a lot of different things, there just came to a point where I was desperate. Like, I'll take a yes from anyone. Like, please just give me something. Like, I need a way to make a little bit of extra money, and I need a way to just, like, try to find something that I really enjoy. And, you know, this internship just kind of came at God's perfect timing and was just kind of, you know, I didn't have to try for it. God is going to lead you to where you need to be, like, in his perfect timing, and you don't have to try to win his approval, because if you're following him, he's going to get you to where you need to be. Sorry, I was going to ask you if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, just going back to, like, the being not good enough part, I think I was just thinking about the other day, if you've seen Inside Out 2, they touch on that of Riley just thinking I'm not good enough. It goes from I'm a good person to I'm not good enough. And I think that's just something that the enemy has attacked us with since pretty much the dawn of time. He went to Eve and convinced her she wasn't good enough, and he convinced Adam he wasn't good enough, and obviously that's led us to where we are today. And the enemy is still convincing us of that, and even just everyone struggles with that in a different way. It's just a matter of God and believing that Jesus can heal what is broken.
Well, I think we're gonna wrap this episode up for today. Thank you, Lauren, so much for being here.
And thanks for having me.
Yes, and for doing the very first Twin Talks episode. It's now been complete, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys soon for the next Twin Talks episode.
Bye.
Bye, guys. And that wraps up this episode of the Stay Salty podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys learned something and were impacted by it. Lauren and I have learned so much so far in our college career, so I hope you guys learned something from what we have learned. Stay tuned for my next episode. It'll be with my friend Jaron Bundy from our trip to Israel last year, talking about what we've learned and what we've learned from the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as well. So stay tuned for that, and I'm looking forward to you guys hearing that as well. And don't forget to follow us on the socials at staysalty.podcast on Instagram and YouTube. And you can now also email me at staysaltycast@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you for the next episode.